Hello sports fans, it is Tuesday, November the 11th, year 2014, and as always, a lot to get to in the sports world, so let's get it going right now. Great to be back with you guys. Happy Veterans Day to you. College football picks and NFL football picks coming up shortly. Let's quickly touch on the Monday Night Football game from last night, where the Philadelphia Eagles at home just bombed the Carolina Panthers 45-21. Eagles up to 7-2, Carolina down to 3-6-1. This was a total blowout. Like the Sunday night game, this game was over in the second quarter. The Eagles were up 31-7 at the half. Carolina has turnovers all over the place. Sproles with the big punt return for Philly. Eagles have a pick six for a touchdown. The Eagles are sacking Cam Newton all over the place. What did the Eagles have? 450 sacks last night. I thought Sanchez played well. Carolina is an awful team this year. Last year they were so good on defense. They are atrocious on defense this year. Cam Newton is taking a beating. He doesn't look like the same quarterback at all. Carolina is a mess, but in that division they're still alive because the Saints are only 4-5 leading the division. But this was all about Philadelphia last night. Philadelphia looked really good. I told you last week when I picked this game, you can win short term with Sanchez. I mean, sure, you need Foles back if you want to get to the Super Bowl or have, make a big run in the playoffs. I don't think you can get there with Sanchez. Don't think you can get to a Super Bowl with Sanchez. But he is definitely a good backup. You can win short term with him. He played really well last night, Sanchez, again for the second straight week. And this was all Philadelphia. This was a total blowout. I mean, second quarter, like I said, this game was over. You could have turned off your set right there. So the Eagles roll. Eagles and Cowboys continue to battle for that division. We'll keep an eye on that. All right, without further ado, let's get to our college football picks for week number 12. Last week I was 4-1-1 against the spread. That puts me 23 games over 500 against the spread for college football. So I am doing really well in college football. Now I have to admit, when I looked at the college football and the NFL this week, I said, wow, it is going to be a tough week to find some games. It is a really difficult week to find some games in college and the NFL. Very, very hard picking this week. Very hard picking games this week. I came up with 4 college football games for you. Let's get to them right now. Pick number 1, let's go down to Gainesville, Florida, where the Florida Gators are -5.5 against the South Carolina Gamecocks. The Florida Gators have found new life. They are now 5-3. They've won 2 straight. They had that huge win against Georgia a couple weeks ago where they ran for like 400 yards. Florida looks like they've turned the corner. Florida looks like they are starting to become a decent team. They're on a little bit of a streak here. They are home. That place in Gainesville is a madhouse, very tough place to play. As far as South Carolina, they have had an atrocious year. They're 4-5. They've lost 2 straight. They lost at home to Tennessee. This is not one of Steve Spurrier's better teams. I see 2 teams here going in the opposite direction. Florida is peaking now. South Carolina looks like they're going down the tubes. I like Florida here. They're home. I'm only giving up 5.5. Like I said, Florida has gotten hot. They bombed Georgia a couple weeks ago, and South Carolina can't get out of their own way. They're giving up a lot of points. Gave up a ton of points to Tennessee. That's not easy to do. I like Florida here. I know Florida wasn't playing well early in the season. They look like they've turned the corner, though, and South Carolina does not look like a good team at all. I have to go with Florida in front of those crazy fans down there in the swamp. I will take Florida at home, -5.5 against the South Carolina Gamecocks. That's pick number 1. Pick number 2, let's go to Lawrence, Kansas, where the TCU Horned Frogs are -27.5 against the Kansas Jayhawks. TCU, of course, 8-1. They're right there for the Big 12 title. They're right there for the Final Four playoff. They're going to need a little help, I think. I think TCU right now is on the outside looking in. And remember, the new college football playoffs come out tonight. TCU probably needs a little help, but they're still right there. TCU bombed Kansas State last week, 41-20, and Kansas State is a good team. Kansas, listen, we know they're not any good. They're 3-6. They're not a very good team. Kansas a couple weeks ago lost to Baylor, 60-14. I think it's going to be that type of game. TCU's offense is a handful for anyone. They should put up a ton of points against Kansas. I think TCU can't afford any slip-ups. They are going to score about 50 points in this game. I will give up the 27.5. I like TCU to just lay it on Kansas in Lawrence. TCU -27.5 at Kansas is pick number 2. Pick number 3, let's go to Corvallis, Oregon, where the Arizona State Sun Devils are -9.5 against the Oregon State Beavers. Arizona State 8-1. I think they control their own destiny. They win out. They win the Pac-12 title. They're going to get to the Final Four. Their season turned around like about a month ago. They were blasted by UCLA, and then the next week they were about to lose to USC. They threw a Hail Mary. They won the game. They haven't looked back. They've been playing really, really well. Had that nice win against Notre Dame last week. Oregon State, even though I like Riley as the coach, has not had a good year. They are 4-5. They've lost 4 straight. They lost to Washington State last week with Washington State's backup quarterback. That's not a good sign. Washington State is not a good team. Oregon State gives up a ton of points. And you know this about Arizona State. They can score. I expect Arizona State to score a ton of points in this game, to put up maybe 42 points in this game. That will be more than enough to cover the 9.5. So I like Arizona State -9.5 at Oregon State. That's pick number 3. And my final pick, let's go down to Miami. Huge game here. The Florida State Seminoles are -1.5 against the Miami Hurricanes. Florida State, of course, 9-0. They control their own destiny. They win out. They will be in the Final Four. Remember, Florida State is on this huge winning streak. They were undefeated last year. They're undefeated now. Miami is improving. They're 6-3. I like Golden as the coach. I just don't know if Miami is ready for this type of game. You look at Miami's wins this year, the kind of, against the mediocre teams, the weaklings. I don't know if they're ready to beat a team like Florida State. And when I first looked at this spread, I had to take a retake. It's only 1.5. Florida State has this huge winning streak. They're undefeated. Miami is 6-3. They've lost 3 games. I know the game is in Miami. There's going to be a ton of Florida State fans there. I was actually shocked it was this low. Now, I know Florida State can be choppy. They've been sloppy this year, but they always find a way to get it done. They always find a way to win. I think Miami is coming. I like Golden as the coach, as I said. I think they're going to get there with him. I just don't think they're ready now. I don't think they're ready to knock off Florida State right now. Florida State, too much talent. They know how to win. I don't know if Miami knows how to win a game like this. One of the must-watch games of the weekend. Fabulous game. Make sure you watch this game. But I got to take Florida State here. Florida State -1.5 at Miami is pick number 4. So in review, here are my 4 picks in college football. I like the Florida Gators at home -5.5 against the South Carolina Gamecocks. I like TCU -27.5 at Kansas. I like Arizona State -9.5 at Oregon State. And I like Florida State -1.5 at Miami. So those are my official college football picks. Another must-watch game for the weekend that I didn't pick is Alabama-Mississippi State. I mean, that is a must-watch game. The game is in Alabama. Mississippi State undefeated, ranked number 1. Alabama right there for everything as well. Should be a fascinating game. We'll keep an eye on the Alabama running back. We'll see if he plays. I mean, to me, I think the spread was 7.5. I mean, to me, I think Alabama's going to get through. The spread's a little high, not giving Mississippi State much respect. But Alabama at home, I have a feeling they're going to squeak through in this game. But that is a must-watch game. I didn't pick the game, but make sure you guys watch that game. Alabama-Mississippi State should be a great game. Georgia-Auburn has lost its luster. I thought that was going to be a monster game this weekend, but Georgia lost to Florida a couple weeks ago. Of course, Auburn lost to Texas A&M at home, so that kind of blew up that game. So the 2 must-watch games in college football, Florida State at Miami and Mississippi State at Alabama. Please watch those games, DVR them, tape them, whatever. Make sure you check out those 2 games. All right, without further ado, let's get to my NFL picks for week number 11. Last week in the NFL, I was 5-1, had a great week in the NFL. The only game I lost was New Orleans. Of course, I had Philadelphia last night. I am 19 games over 500 against the spread for the NFL this year. Now, like last week, I am going to only pick a few games, then I'll touch on the rest of the games for you. I'm only going to pick a few games. I think that's the better way to go. I can pick and choose the games kind of like college football. You start picking every game in the NFL, you kind of break out 500 some weeks. So I want to pick and choose my games the rest of the year. Let's go to New Orleans. Pick number 1. The New Orleans Saints are -6.5 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I just mentioned the only game I lost last week was New Orleans, who lost at home to San Francisco. But I'm jumping right back on New Orleans this week. They very rarely lose at home. It's even more rare that they lose 2 in a row at home. I think New Orleans has to respond here. They're 4-5. They're still leading their division. That division is awful. We know Tampa Bay stinks. Atlanta's horrible, even though they're only a game out of first place. We saw Carolina last night. It's still New Orleans' division to win. I think New Orleans is going to win that division. I think Cincinnati is playing lousy football right now. They were embarrassed by Cleveland last week. I mean, could a team play a more atrocious game than Cincinnati played last Thursday night? Cincinnati has all sorts of injuries on defense. You saw that happen to them last year. They started to get beat up on defense. Cincinnati's not playing well at all. Remember, Cincinnati started off 3-0 this year. They've fallen flat on their face. They don't look impressive at all. Dalton was horrendous. Now, I know they got A.J. Green back. I expect Cincinnati to get some points in this game, but I expect New Orleans to get more points. I see this game being like 31-24 New Orleans. So I like New Orleans at home to rebound off the loss and beat Cincinnati. I will give up the 6.5. I like New Orleans minus 6.5 against Cincinnati in the Superdome. That's pick number 1. Pick number 2. Let's go to St. Louis, where the Denver Broncos are minus 9.5 against the St. Louis Rams. Denver, who had that bad performance 2 weeks ago at New England, rebounded in a nice way last week and crushed Oakland. St. Louis, you know the deal with them. They're going to play hard for Fisher. They're going to give you one good half, but they can't play a complete game, it seems. Even last week, they played a very good first half against Arizona. Palmer went out of the game. You thought St. Louis had a chance. Stanton comes in for Arizona, and Arizona blows out St. Louis, you know, the rest of the way. I think Denver's offense is way too much for St. Louis, especially indoors. Perfect weather. I mean, you know, the conditions are perfect for Peyton Manning and that offense. Denver has so many weapons. I mean, St. Louis will battle. They'll play hard. They can't go toe-to-toe with Denver. Just like I said, the Raiders couldn't go toe-to-toe with Denver last week. Neither can St. Louis. St. Louis may hang around for a little bit. Denver is too much. They'll pull away in this game. Denver's good for 30 points every week at least. Sometimes they put up 40. Sometimes they put up 50. I like Denver here to cruise. The game will get out of hand late. I like Denver minus 9.5 at St. Louis. Pick number 3, let's go to the Meadowlands in New Jersey. Not too far from here, where the San Francisco 49ers are minus 4 against the New York Giants. 49ers, to me, saved their season last week. They had that awful loss to the Rams 2 weeks ago. They came back and had a great win at New Orleans, pulled the game out of the fire. Kaepernick had that big pass to Crabtree, set up the game-tying field goal. Niner defense in overtime strips Breeze, sets up the game-winning field goal. Niners had to have the game, saved their season. You want to look back at a game that turned the Niners season, it was definitely last week. Now, they can't afford now to get sloppy and now lose to the Giants, and I don't think they will. I know they got to go across the country again, and they went from San Francisco to New Orleans. They had to go back home, and now they're going, San Francisco to New York. Please, they're flying a private charter. No one's taking out the collection plate for San Francisco. They should handle this bad Giant team. The Giants are 3-6. They got bombed in Seattle, the second half of that game. They got bombed by the Colts the week before. The Giants are showing me no life whatsoever. I think the Niners should beat up the Giants. I would be disappointed if the Niners fell flat on their face here. The Niners got to take care of business here and beat the Giants. I think they will. The spread is only 4. I will take San Francisco minus 4 in the Meadowlands. And my last pick, the Monday night game, the Pittsburgh Steelers are minus 4 at the Tennessee Titans. Of course, Pittsburgh laid a complete egg here in the Meadowlands last week when they lost to the Jets. The Steelers were red hot coming into that game. They had won the 3 home games in a row. They blew out Houston. They blew out the Colts. They blew out the Ravens. Then they went on the road and laid a complete egg against the Jets. You know the Steelers are capable of an egg. They lost to Tampa at home. They barely beat Jacksonville. I have to think on Monday night after the loss to the Jets, the Steelers are going to come back and beat a bad Tennessee team. Tennessee is an awful team. They're, 2-7? I mean, they won their first game. They've been 1-7 since, and the only game they won was against Jacksonville, where Jacksonville missed a field goal at the end of the game. Tennessee's starting this Mettenberger. I'm still not sold on him. Tennessee's defense is not any good. If the Steelers lose back-to-back games to the Jets and Tennessee, they should be ashamed of themselves. I have to think the Steelers offense is going to respond. They were so hot going into the Jet game. They did absolutely nothing last week. I would expect them to get cooking again on Monday night and blow out the Tennessee Titans. I mean, I can't see Tennessee winning this game. So I like Pittsburgh to rebound off the bad loss to the Jets, go into Tennessee on Monday night, and get back to their winning ways. So I like Pittsburgh minus 5 in Nashville. So once again, my 4 NFL picks. The New Orleans Saints at home, minus 6.5 against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Denver Broncos, minus 9.5 at St. Louis. The San Francisco 49ers, minus 4 in the Meadowlands against the Giants. and the Pittsburgh Steelers -5 in Nashville against the Titans on Monday Night Football. As far as the other games, Dallas Jets, Jacksonville, Baltimore all have off. The Thursday night is a good game. Buffalo at Miami, very, very nice game. Very important game. Minnesota, Chicago, get any better than that? You know what? I think Minnesota might be better than Chicago. And at the beginning of the year, did any of you think you were going to say that? Houston at Cleveland. Houston, of course, is going with the new quarterback, Mallett. Of course, Mallett quarterback Arkansas. He's got a big arm. He was a backup for Brady. Now he's quarterbacking Houston. I mean, Cleveland's in first place. They've been hot. I don't know what to make of this game because I don't know what Mallett's going to do for Houston at quarterback. I would think Cleveland would get through at home. Seattle at Kansas City, very fascinating game. Seattle, even though they're 6-3, doesn't look like the same team. Kansas City looks really solid. The game's at Arrowhead, should be an electric atmosphere for that one. Here's a beautiful game. Atlanta at Carolina, and I'll tell you what, the winner of this game is going to think they have a shot. Say New Orleans lost this week and they go to 4-6. Do you realize Atlanta and Carolina, the winner of that game, would be right there? Atlanta is a game behind New Orleans. How is that possible, the way Atlanta has played this year? Oh, my goodness. So what a game there. Atlanta, Carolina. The winner is going to think they have a shot at the playoffs. Here's another beautiful game. Tampa Bay, Washington. Oh, my goodness. Terrible game. We'll see how Robert Griffin plays. Oakland at San Diego. Hey, San Diego, you going to show some life this week? I mean, San Diego's falling flat on their face. Philadelphia at Green Bay, fascinating game, very good game at Lambeau Field. Sanchez playing well, Rodgers playing well for Green Bay, should be a lot of points in that one. Detroit at Arizona, very important game as far as seeding. Of course, Palmer is out for the year. Arizona's going with Stanton. Arizona still has that tough defense. This should be a defensive, slug-it-out type of game, and a beauty of a game. New England at Indianapolis, what a tremendous game that is. New England's actually underdog in this game. Very, very nice game. One of the must-watch games of the weekend. So that is where you are in your NFL. Very tough picking in the NFL and college football this week. I had a tough time finding any games. The picks are so hard. You look at some of these NFL games, I mean, they're so even. How do you pick some of these games? Atlanta, Carolina, Buffalo, Miami, Minnesota, Chicago, Seattle, Kansas City, New England, Indianapolis, Detroit, Arizona. It goes on and on. How do you pick some of these games? I mean, these games are like a flip of the coin. That's why I stayed away from some of those games. Okay, you guys are all set. You guys are all caught up. You guys, thanks for the support as always. You guys enjoy the games the next few days. Of course, you got your NBA, your NHL. You'll have your NFL and college football starting up on Thursday. I will be back with you guys Monday. You guys, thanks as always for the support. You guys stay happy, healthy, and safe. Enjoy your Veterans Day. I'll talk to you Monday. We'll recap it all. Hope you guys pick some winners and do well, I should say. Talk to you Monday. Take care.